Hi there, it's me, Brianna, and you're listening to Are We Caught Up Yet? Marvel Edition. And today I'm joined, as always, by my friend Sam.
Greetings.
You can find us on youtube.com/Save the Game Media and podcast services. If you do want to show Save the Game Media some extra love and get early access to all of our content, you can find us on patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Okay, before we get started on Age of Ultron, how are you and what have you been watching? I've been busy and I haven't watched anything.
Yeah, so what have you been watching? That was a really cool ventriloquist. That just happened there.
I didn't do the accent, so it doesn't count.
I have been very busy, yes. But I've been watching Silo on Apple TV. And I can't remember when the last time was that we recorded one of these. Everything's blurring together.
Let me look. I think it's been 2 weeks because we didn't record one last week. So the 24th of July would have been the last time we recorded.
Then yes. So okay, that still doesn't really help me because I can't remember whether I had raised on the previous time we recorded. Like I didn't know where that sat with me watching Oppenheimer.
I think you did talk about Oppenheimer because
Okay.
Oppenheimer was already out at that point.
Yeah, that probably makes sense. Yeah, so, but I'm still thinking about that film. So
I'm still thinking about Barbie. So
yeah, just the inferior of the two.
I really don't think that's the case, but
I don't know. I probably think
you're
it
right.
is.
One was made by a man, so clearly that's
obviously. Yeah.
Oh.
No, I think that's the only two things I've watched as of late. And this film, obviously, but that sort of goes without saying each time we do one of these. Yes, there is nothing else. What about you?
I am doing well, and I have been watching just random stuff off and on. I've been mostly watching a lot of YouTube, but and a lot of memes. That's been my last 24 hours. I've been on TikTok just watching memes about the Alabama Slamma. That's what they're calling it. I can't keep talking about this. Okay, anyway. I also watched a little bit more of the animation that I talked about. What is it? Kizazimoto Generation Fire. I've watched all of the episodes now besides the last two. The last one that I watched, episode 8, is like Star or something. That one's been the best one so far. It was so good. What else have I watched? I watched Nimona. I love the comic. The movie, I feel like, is even better than the comic because the comic doesn't flesh. It's a very short comic, doesn't flesh out the story as much, but the movie was so freaking good, and I feel like it really fleshed out the story really well. So yeah, by the time you guys listen to this, but not by the time currently, I will have watched Heartstopper season 2, but I'm waiting to watch it with my best friend when I go back to Utah. So haven't watched it yet. But I'm sure I loved it. That's my review. And I'll probably watch it because I watched the first season like 4 times now. So
this is where it turns out to be a tire fire and you hated it.
I've heard that it's really good. But
as have I.
I'm dying to watch it. It's okay.
Yeah. You'll be fine. You'll manage.
I will manage, and then I'll have a great time watching it with my bestie.
Here ye.
Right. Okay. So, for this, we're going to be talking about Avengers: Age of Ultron, aka Transformers: Age of Ultron, and you can't even tell me that if a movie came out that was called Transformers: Age of Ultron, you would even like bat an eye. You'd just be like, "Yeah, that sounds like a Transformers movie."
Yeah. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Luckily, just getting into general thoughts, this was better than the Transformers movie. I don't really like the Transformer movies at all, but so it was a very low bar. But
Oh dear. I'm not sure that's a ringing endorsement of this film either.
but I did like it better than Transformers, so.
Oh, okay.
No, it was actually a pretty good film. I think that I think I have a couple of reservations about it, like particularly like the overall, like not I don't want to say plot, but like it feels like the purpose of this film was to provide like introduction information, like or it was like almost like the plate by which we had to deliver certain information that were the next steps that could have easily been worked into a brief piece of another film, but it was also a pretty good film, so I'm not that mad about it. So yeah, had a good time.
Good.
I'm getting to the point now where I'm like ready. By the time I finish one movie, I'm like, I'm just ready to watch the next one. But
yes,
then I end
the
up having to
indoctrination.
watch. And I have to
It's
wait
begun.
like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So,
Just it helps to build anticipation. You know.
I will say this next one I'm not anticipating, but that's okay. It seems silly, and I also don't like bugs.
Time will tell. Time will tell. You never know.
Okay. General thoughts on Avengers: Age of Ultron.
So this is relatively widely considered to be a hot take, but I think that this definitively is better than the first Avengers.
I would agree with that.
Oh.
I think it was like a lot better than the first one, but
see, the general consensus is no.
Is it because there's less explosions? Probably.
I don't know. I think there's a relatively equal amount of explosions. They certainly make up for it in the final act of this film. I don't really know. I can't necessarily point to one specific thing that people seem to have an issue with. But as somebody who is primarily invested in these things as products for the characters and how the characters interplay with one another, I think that is why this easily edges out the first Avengers film, because there's just so much great stuff here in terms of not necessarily specifically character development, but just a continuation, which is a sentiment that will probably be echoed a lot at certain points in the future, where there's not necessarily a lot of steps taken forward, but there is just sort of like we're that little bit further down the road. And for me, that's enough. I can understand why for some it might not be. I think that there are definitely certain elements of the film that are underbaked or characters that are underutilized. But overall, I can't help but still really enjoy this film.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I do.
Alrighty. Let's go ahead and start here. Per usual, soundtrack. I mean, we have the Avengers theme, but I think that's about it. In terms of
pretty
like,
much
memorable soundtrack.
Yeah.
But
unfortunate.
Okay. So then let's go ahead and okay, I have notes here. Okay, so there are a couple things that I wanted to talk about kind of separate from topics, but also part of topics. So one, we're referencing Wakanda, which I thought was really interesting. And I was like, oh my God, Wakanda. Anyways, this film, I think, had the best Stan Lee moment. of any of them so far. I thought this was a really funny Stanley moment that he got, like, he had to get dragged away.
Yeah.
Thought that was funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then two other random thoughts. One, chubby Iron Man was so adorable. I was like, I need this in a figurine or something. This is so cute.
You can get that as a figurine. It is not called Chubby Iron Man, but you can find it. Not if you search. Oh, maybe if you search that. That's probably actually. I would advise maybe not searching Chubby Iron Man.
I'm doing
I
it.
don't know what kind of stuff you'll find.
I'm doing it right now.
What kind of R34 stuff is going to be there? I dread to think.
There is a couple images of the Iron Man thing that I was referencing, but mostly it's just like, what if Iron Man was a bigger dude?
Yeah.
That's basically all that I'm seeing here.
Yeah.
Not as exciting as you were hoping.
Yeah. The technical name is Hulkbuster.
Oh,
because it's built specifically to fight the Hulk. But henceforth, it shall now forever be called Chubby Iron Man.
It was just so cute, his little head. I couldn't deal with it when I saw it. I was like, oh my god, that's so cute. Anyway. Okay, and then shout out to TikTok for memeing the hell out of the line from Thanos at the very end, the fine, I'll do it myself. I can't tell you how many times I heard that line to the point where when I saw him pick it up, I knew what he was going to say. I was like, ah, and I said it with him.
There you go.
Because I knew. I knew. Anyways, so thanks for the memes, TikTok. So those are some of my shout out moments there. That I specifically wanted to talk about. Okay, so we can start. I kind of want to start with characters, which we don't normally do, but I kind of do want to. Specifically because I wanted to start by talking about Ultron a little bit.
Yes.
Shout out to the animators because I can't remember the guy's name that voice acts him, but
James
first of all,
Spader.
There you go. Great choice on voice actor. I thought that was a great choice. And on top of that, if you've seen him act at all, which I've seen him act a lot in several different shows, you kind of are used to his like weird quirks that he does with his head and like the things he does with his face. Like he like has like a very specific cadence, and they animated that onto Ultron. Like he like especially at the very end, like when he did that weird like head tilt thing and like lean forward, I was like, oh my god, that's just the actor. And they did that throughout the whole film. And I was really blown away by that. And I think that it sounds like a minimum effort kind of thing, but they didn't have to do that to make it seem like the CGI was also the actor. Like they could have just done like a basic thing, but they didn't. And I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed the voice actor choice as well. So, how do you feel about it?
I think it's a double-edged sword, Ultron, because I think he is conceptually the most interesting villain we've probably had thus far. I don't know that they fully capitalized on his potential. I was
about to say, was he? But yes, conceptually, yes.
Particularly when you know, like you say, we've got an excellent actor in the role, and they put so much work into sort of breathing life into him. It's unfortunate that, and again, I don't have the answers to know exactly how to fix that issue to capitalize on him more, other than having him just be in more of the film. But yeah, I sort of one of the few things that I sort of have always longed for is more Ultron, because I think that he is not just in terms of, again, conceptually, but his performance and the sort of gravitas that he commands when he's on screen, even as a CGI thing, is, again, well, in my opinion, somewhat unmatched in comparison to anybody else that we've seen. So I was like, damn. and he's got some really good lines as well. Like the
Mm-hmm.
dialogue, I think, is something that is overlooked a lot when this film is talked about. But I think that some of my favorite lines in the entire MCU are from this film. So yeah, no, I really like him. Not a massive fan of. I get what they're going for. I'm not a massive fan of. This is such a nitpick. His upgraded look towards the end of the film. I much prefer
Oh,
that sort of
really?
middle. I prefer the middle iteration because talking of like chubby Iron Man, his final version just looks like he's got massive puffy cheeks. Like his head is just too big. Whereas I quite like the sort of sleek, slimline thing and sort of the curved in mouth of the middle iteration. But I
Mm,
get that they were wanting to sort of keep amping him up and that he's getting out of control and can make himself out of vibranium and stuff like that. So I get it, but also boo.
yeah. I don't think I really minded any of the iterations. I wasn't
Yeah.
really in it for the looks of Ultron, you know what I mean?
I think actually, you know, this discussion, I think it's actually just made me realize why I don't like that last iteration as much.
Hmm.
It's because, as you said, in my opinion, that middle iteration is where he is the most expressive.
Yeah.
I think the fact that in that final iteration where he's all armored up and chunky,
He doesn't really talk much.
we, or even if he does, because of just the amount of stuff like bulking him up, he doesn't quite have that. He, he does still do like the head tilts and stuff that you were saying and the physical quirks, but I think they're more apparent earlier in the film. Um, like he kind of, he doesn't fully go there, but I think towards the end he kind of drifts towards being more generic. Whereas in the middle he
Yeah.
is far more narratively focused on like the the reason he was made and his beef with Tony, and he's sarcastic and he's cutting people's arms off and he's like, oh, sorry about that. And I think some of that is lost, maybe just through the physicality of the character by the way that he's redesigned at the end of the film.
Mm. I honestly think it was also partially just the writing of the film. Like, not to say that like that affected like your opinion of like which suit is best, but like in the writing of the film, like towards the end, like they're not even fighting him that much. Like they do fight him a little bit, but they're mostly just fighting, which I guess is technically him, but they're fighting like all of like the mob robots rather
Yeah.
than him. And that's like
Mm-hmm.
basically the end of the film is just like fighting the mob, and you don't really see like the main bad guy, like regardless of like he just isn't there for
Yeah.
most of the ending, which I think is like it felt weird to me, and I definitely noticed that he was gone. I was like, where is this dude? And then like by the time you get to the end and they kill him, you're like, what? Like they didn't even have like a brawl with him.
Yeah. Marvel continues the streak of killing off interesting villains in the first film that they appear in. God damn it.
What can you
There have been a couple
do?
of exceptions, obviously, but still.
What can you do? It's okay. It was interesting. It was a
Yeah.
good time. Good actor. Um okay. And then just like okay, so since we're already talking about Ultron, like conceptually I really enjoyed like the discussion of like
Mm-hmm.
especially like Captain I can't remember the exact quote, but him saying like anytime somebody's tried to prevent a war, it's what's like initiated it.
Yeah.
And I think that was really interesting as well. There was a lot of like reflective moments and like, are we doing the right thing? Is this worth it? Like, are we actually saving the planet or are we making things worse? Like, all of those questions.
Yeah.
I think that was really interesting. But I also understand like Tony's perspective of like, I want to prevent stuff from happening and I also won't be here forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's, I agree, in terms of like, there's a lot of thematic stuff here, and compelling sort of ideological conversations. Um, I I will stand my ground. I am firmly, throughout both this film and things to come, which I obviously won't talk about, firmly standing with Tony, because ultimately, a lot of the characters in this film and people that watch it kind of view him as reckless and uh, you know too quick to the trigger to sort of jump on something without consulting other people and whatnot. But if you take into consideration, the PTSD that he's been experiencing, obviously he was the one that went through the portal in New York. He At the beginning of this film, his vision that he was shown by Wanda showed that same kind of portal with them coming through, and then everybody else was dead, and that Cap says that he could have saved them. So I think he is just hell bent on protecting everyone, and it's not that he doesn't think the others are capable of doing it. It's like he says in this film, which again a lot of people decide to dismiss for some reason, that he's, you know isn't that the why we fight? So we can end the fight, so we can go home. He just wants everybody to be okay and to be at peace. And he knows that he has to try to do something that is quite definitive to make that happen. Um, and then like people as well jump on the bandwagon of like, oh well, at the end of Iron Man 3, he threw away all of his suits, but now he's wearing suits again. It's like, well, yes, but you can extrapolate that he made the promise at the end of Iron Man 3, and then now he's receded on that promise because he can't. It's like he is like he was in Iron Man 3. He just kept being pulled back into making the suits and trying to protect people. So it's like, I don't think that that's a necessarily valid criticism either. Not that they necessarily touch on it in this film. I get that. I can understand that specific criticism, but I don't think that it is a swerve out of character for him to immediately jump back into a suit in the next film that we see him in after getting rid of suits. What was I saying? Where were we going? I don't know. I was just trailing off as I usually do. Yeah. Hello. I don't think I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can.
Oh, okay.
Excellent.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. I was talking and I stopped talking. I was like, I've been going on for a while, and as I stopped talking, nothing happened. Nobody said anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, so keeping on with the keeping on. Um so I think in terms of characters, I think Vision is also interesting. Sam's talking to his family. So
Ted had to be
chaos.
removed.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does this thing where he starts sort of like just doing a low growl, and that's a sign that he needs to go do his business.
You could just say go to the bathroom.
I could have said that, but I didn't.
I know you didn't. Anyways, so I was saying, in terms of like what character we can kind of touch on next, I think Vision is also interesting, especially in relation to Ultron. That's the right name, right? I'm not.
Vision.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I do have to say the title of the show, WandaVision, does make a little bit more sense now. But
there you go. I mean, it is also technically a wordplay on television, but it's like it's a double entendre. Ah, you know,
fancy.
yes. Yeah. What? Sorry. What do you think of Vision?
I just think Vision's really interesting. Is Jarvis like gone?
Yes.
I really liked Jarvis.
Well, I mean, it depends on what your definition of gone is.
Yeah, but he just doesn't feel like Jarvis anymore.
Because like gone as a individual specific entity, yes. But
now we just have Friday.
Jarvis is, that's correct. We do just have Friday.
Boo.
Jarvis is incorporated into Vision.
Yes, Jarvis is incorporated into Vision, but I liked personality wise, I liked Jarvis better. But I also think that like we haven't seen too much of Vision, so I'll be nice for now. But
yeah, hold off on the criticisms. You don't know who knows what's coming.
Who knows? You again, you always say this, and it's always the same answer.
As Vision said at the end of this film, I was born yesterday, so he's still just a little wee baby. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know who he is. Give him time.
You know? He's like, you're so naive. He's like, I was born yesterday.
He's
I was
not
like,
wrong.
that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it's not that I dislike Vision. It's just I really liked Jarvis. So yeah, I mean, there isn't really too much to say. His character design freaks me out a little bit. He looks like weirdly naked, but like naked of skin.
Yeah.
Like somebody peeled his skin off, you know? But
yeah, I guess they're just sort of going for like a, you know, a fleshy. That sounds weird to say, but
yeah, but it's a little uncanny valley for me, where it's like this is like just kind of creepy.
I know what you mean.
But
I know what you mean. They could have technically made him look a little bit more mechanical.
Is that what he looks like in the comics?
Well, yes and no. Like he is just a red thing with lots of green.
Oh yeah,
with
he does
with a
just
thing
kind
in his
of look
head.
like that.
Yeah.
Weird.
But they certainly sort of darkened the colors of everything with this version, which is typical. That's what they have done with most of their character designs thus far. Yeah, no, I really like Vision.
Yeah.
Again, it sounds so pretentious saying conceptually all the time, but like conceptually, I think he is arguably the most interesting hero that we've gotten thus far, like of any of them. Just period.
What makes you say that, just out of curiosity?
Well, because he is a hero that was inadvertently created by what I think is the most compelling villain we've had thus far. He was created to be the next iteration, the body of that villain.
Mm-hmm.
So he was created with malicious intent, but the heroes intervened at the last minute and uploaded an AI that worked for this flawed human being, and that has put this now new being Vision in a like maelstrom of not knowing who he is, what he actually wants to do, whether he wants to kill everybody or be a good guy. He's like, he says in the film, he's like, I'm not on anybody's side. I'm on the side of life.
Mm.
And I think that by the virtues of the character that we're shown in this film, not only does he appear to be incredibly powerful and capable of doing a lot of very unique things compared to the other heroes, there is something to be said about him being able to, as nerdy as it sounds to say, there is something to him being able to wield Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
You know, like that. I think that just the ability that he has to do that without even saying anything speaks volumes to the sort of character that he is. Because, you know, as we all know, the only those worthy of Thor's power can use his hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And we are shown earlier in this film that nobody else can wield it.
I do
Cap
have
gets
a
a little
little.
wiggle, but
Yeah. He like he gets scared too. He's like,
Thor's a bit like,
he's like, oh, I knew.
yeah.
I do think I think I have a little like I really enjoyed the concept as well as like the payoff of like him being able to wield the hammer, but I do think I'm more like it more makes me question like what is so special about Thor, because Thor doesn't seem to be acting any better or doing anything differently than the rest of the heroes.
Mm-hmm.
So like what about him besides just being Thor makes him
I think that
worthy?
is a very good question. Um, you know, as more and more people are introduced, I think that it is reasonable not only for us as an audience, but for not just Thor specifically, but other characters to question their place in it and what makes them devoid of the Thor attachment worthy of either just the power that they have in general or for being a part of this team. You know, because you introduce somebody like Vision who can seemingly do a lot of very powerful things, and it's like, well, does that kind of, why the hell is Hawkeye on this team anymore? You know,
Yeah, I mean he even says it too.
exactly. So it's like when there are these practically weapons of mass destruction walking around, what place does a woman that can shoot guns well or a man with a bow and arrow, what place do they have? And I think that this film, which is why I like it so much, presents the argument for why those more human characters are vital, but it doesn't negate the fact that the people, the human characters are only important if they have the counterweight of these omega level superpowered people,
Mhm.
because they balance each other out and they help to keep each other grounded and rooted together. Um, but yeah, no, I think Thor is that is a very pertinent question to be asking, because it is seemingly now more so than anything else just a birthright that he gets to have the hammer.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, technically, he like earned it back in the first film, but
But like he did the
where we
same
are
thing that
now,
anybody else has done in their films, right?
yeah. And if like surely Vision would just be better with the hammer because he can do so many other things that Thor can't. But
Yeah. I mean I wouldn't like make the argument that like Vision should have the hammer. Like obviously
no, no, no.
it is Thor's hammer, but like I do think it's interesting to think about. And I also kind of wonder if, because we don't really know the full powers of the hammer and like how it does its judgment, right? So I
Hmm.
almost wonder if the hammer is also judging like against future deeds as well. Like it's time is irrelevant because it is a hammer.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't care about time. I don't know. That's
Maybe.
that's my theory, is that it kind of weighs everybody's deeds across their lifetime. But
Interesting.
I could also just be making stuff up because I just need an explanation for why one person can wield this hammer and the rest can't.
Yeah.
I do also have another theory that Black Widow can wield the hammer.
Oh,
That's my other theory. But that's just because she didn't try.
because she didn't try. So they're
Yeah.
setting up something of.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, who knows?
Like, oh my god. Okay, so that kind of covers like our weird villain slash anti-hero
Hmm.
kind of peoples. And then we just have a whole bunch of heroes. Who do you want to tackle first? I'll let you pick.
I'm going to swerve. I'm going to swerve. I'm going to
Okay, swerve.
completely ignore what you just said. I'm not going to
Do
completely
it.
ignore it.
Do it. No, it completely ignore me. I don't exist.
I want to talk. I think we can bundle them, to be honest, for this film anyway. The twins.
Dude, the line, like, what did they say? Like, send out the twins. I was like, what the hell?
Well, I mean, it's true. They're twins.
Yeah, it is true, but like, what a line. If somebody said that to you, you'd be like, what? Like,
Tweedledum and Tweedledee.
okay. I don't even know the other person's name. Does he even have a hero name? That's a real question.
You mean her brother?
Yeah.
Not in this film. I mean, technically, neither of them have superhero names in
Oh, he
this
does
film.
have a superhero name.
He does. It's Quicksilver,
Oh.
but he's dead, so we ain't getting that.
I assume he's dead. Dead.
Yes. Yeah. Pretty
Did they
definitively.
need to kill him?
No, not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. I would have been. I think a fake out would have been more than enough.
Yeah, I agree. I also think like I'm really surprised that they didn't kill Hawkeye.
Yeah. Yeah. That
They
that
set it
was the
up. They
sentiment at
set
the
it up.
time. That like they
I
laid
don't
the
I don't
groundwork
want him
throughout
to
this
die.
film, introduced his family and stuff. You know, it was almost like this was going to be his one last thing before retirement. Would have been thematically poignant to have him. You know, he gets injured at the beginning of the film and he has to be healed up and stuff. He's shown as technically like one of the most vulnerable. Um, but yeah, no, he doesn't die. And I guess, you know, as much as we can peer into that alternate reality where maybe they did decide to kill Hawkeye or didn't kill Quicksilver and just did like a fake out,
Mm-hmm.
I do still think, I mean, you know, obviously I know, but I'm not necessarily alluding to anything. But I think that by not doing that and by having Hawkeye continue to live regardless, in spite of all this stuff, and this random guy who was fighting not that long ago save his life.
After he made a joke about killing him.
Yeah. Um, opens Hawkeye up to interesting character development. Um, and obviously, you know, Wanda losing her brother is a big thing. You know, nobody can say send out the twins anymore.
That is true. They can't say send out the twins, which is probably good because they shouldn't have
Well,
said that in the
that's
first
a
place.
that's a matter of opinion. I got to say that's,
I hate it.
but I understand why they would want to keep Hawkeye alive because you know he's one of the original 6 Avengers. I think there is something to that of you know it would become a bit trite in the long run if they kept like alluding to our any of our main Avengers dying and they just don't do it. Um, so it does wear thin eventually, but I still think that at least they are giving his character interesting emotional developmental stuff to gnaw on going forwards. I just hope they
Yeah, I think
capitalize on
that's
it.
necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Would I have anything to say about okay, twins and Hawkeye? So for the twins one, Wanda's powers are so cool. If I had to pick so far, that would be my pick. Also, I'm tempted to add her to my simplest, but I'm waiting. Waiting. Still making
Okay.
decisions.
Okay.
What is that face?
No, it's like I can see the list now, and I just know it's going to happen because she's on the list.
Yours are on your prediction list?
My predictions for you. She's on the list.
Okay. Is she on your list?
Of course.
Okay. Just
I mean, I guess
vibe checking.
technically I can't say of course because that is I have to go solely off of this film. I understand your reservations, but I am relatively
I just need
confident.
to see her. Like, I just need to see her more first. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think. Again, we already discussed this. I don't think her brother needed to die. I think that was a little silly. Not in that his death itself was silly, but him dying was silly.
Yeah.
And I don't think I have too much to say about either of them. Like left. I will say I had a little bit of beef with the storyline, and like I get it. Like I get that, like the bomb said Stark on it, but like I feel like logically, like that doesn't mean that he bombed them. And if it wasn't his bomb, it would have been somebody else's bomb.
Sure.
You
But
know what I
then,
mean?
it is like a matter of perspective. It's sort of at the end of the day, she's going to hold that grudge against the only thing that she can
Right.
hold that grudge against,
Right.
So,
Yeah, I
but I'm with
definitely
you.
get
I'm
that,
with you.
especially like when it's like you're just like staring at this bomb. I can
Yeah.
understand like why you would hyperfixate on the name. But I also think that it's not that crazy to just also say like, I think it's fine. Like
Yeah.
like obviously he's not the one that sent the bomb. Anyways, doesn't matter.
And
Okay.
also because he's very clearly a different man, like that is
Yes.
actively against that kind of usage of weaponry now.
Yes.
But so I think that there are leaps in logic that have to be made to justify their motives. But like you can, if you decide to allow those leaps in logic, you can sort of kind of make sense of it. So, but I'm with you 100%. I think that
Yeah.
is, if there are weak threads in this film, that is 100% one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then just some brief thoughts, I guess, on Hawkeye. I am glad that we got to see more of his personality coming out and more of like his backstory stuff. I think it's really interesting that Black Widow, like his family knows her as well. I will have to say his wife, like this was like driving me insane. I was like, I know I've seen her somewhere. And
Velma.
one, Velma, two, New Girl. New Girl was the one that like I did recognize her as Velma, but I was like, dude, there's something that and I watch New Girl over and over again, so it makes sense why my brain was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I love New Girl so much. Anyways, so yeah, I really enjoyed that plot. I do, again, just like I don't know why I feel like I have to do this, but like pointing out another thing that I thought was weird was like I don't think the logic for me follows of like, oh, like this is a good off the grid spot to hang out. Because like wouldn't that be then making the place not off the grid by going there?
I suppose.
Just feels like dangerous for no reason.
Yeah, I guess that is a fair point. I guess the fanboy in me just decides to override that critique whenever it does pop up. Like it does make sense, but I would logic it out by being that they know by that point in the film that Ultron is, practically has access to all the, electricity grids and the internet and stuff. So they
Right, but
probably
Ultron's not the
disabled
only
all the
enemy.
tracking and stuff,
Yeah, that's true. Probably, but also
Probably, but they don't say
not the
that.
worst, not worth the risk either.
No, very true.
In my opinion. But
it could have been something very easily solved
reasons,
with
I understand.
one line of dialogue, but they didn't.
Yes.
So it is a bit of a plot hole as to why. But
yes.
Other than having to introduce Hawkeye's family.
Yes.
These are smaller agents. It's just it's so good. And then Thor steps on the Lego and he sort of brushes it to it's just little moments like that. It's so good.
Yeah. I did enjoy that. I enjoyed those more mundane things, like seeing them trying to deal with like being human after trying to be heroes. I do enjoy that. Okay. Anything else to say about any of those characters so far? Keep going. Okay. Black Widow. I'm sure you knew this was coming. I have a little bit of beef with the romance in this film.
No, really?
Yeah. I do enjoy. Okay, I want to be clear. I like them together. One, where's his original girlfriend? Two, they did not set it up before this film at all. And all of a sudden they're like, they're perfect for each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, says who?
That me saying no and what was sarcastic, clearly.
Yeah.
If there is one criticism lodged at this film by the masses, it is that romance. I
do like them together.
I do as well. And I think that there is some narrative justification for it happening, but it comes out of nowhere, which is the main issue. Like, if there had been at least just a little bit of setup in the first Avengers, it would have sat far better with a lot of people, I think. But
Can you imagine if they had set up the calming down thing like way before? Like if they had set it up in the first film or in the first Avengers film, or like at any point in time, if they set up that like, oh, she's the only one that can calm him down, and they had like previously set that up and not as like a plot point just for this film, I think that this would have played off way better.
And also, like, not just from that perspective, but from the justification that Natasha gives for why she might be attracted to Bruce, or like one of the reasons that she's not intimidated by being with Bruce. She says about how when she went through her training as the assassin before she became a good guy, she was sterilized, so she couldn't have children. And she says, so who's the real monster here? Is, and I like that. I think that it is maybe a little bit heavy-handed, a little bit ham-fisted, but that's only because it comes out of nowhere. If there had been, again, even just a slight inclination in the previous times that we've seen her, which we've seen her a few times now, where she, and it's tough because her character has to have a very tough exterior to most of the characters she interacts with, because she's a spy, she's espionage, she's trained in that stuff. But even just like a quiet moment to herself where you see a little bit of that vulnerability, and like she hates herself, like you can tell that she hates herself for doing it. She actively regrets it. Which is a testament to Scarlett Johansson's acting in this scene where she reveals it. But I think that the abruptness of it all is the main gripe that I have. Like you say, that we're both on board with them being together. It does kind of make sense. But like for a series of projects that are all interconnected and are meant to be building upon each other, the bits that work the least are stuff that they just seem to jam in there because they want to force character development rather than sort of naturally letting it play out. Because you could have introduced the idea of a relationship between them here, and then in subsequent projects have more of the bigger stuff that happens within this film play out later down the line. and that also would have worked. But I think they just kind of wanted to rush to get the two of them kind of together, and it suffers
Yeah.
as a whole because of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also am like as we're discussing this, I'm kind of like I was kind of trying to like pick apart like why I think that they would be good together. And I think that like there's like multiple like reasons behind it, but I think it's kind of interesting because I think he's almost like the safest character, which is weird, right? Cuz he's like very destructive, very explosive anger, like his like hero form or whatever, his Hulk form like is very destructive and violent and like
Yeah,
crazy, but like in terms of like um I don't want to say like emotions, but in terms of like the way that the characters interact with like specifically women, like out of all of the heroes, I think that he's the one that makes the most sense, right? Because the rest of them are fairly like cocky and
mm-hmm.
like women fall before me kind of thing. And which is so interesting because Black Widow is very like, I'm independent, I will mess you up. Goes for the one that's not like that, which I really appreciate because she would have been able to see like hey, the rest of these guys are kind of cocky, dealt with that before. Don't like that.
Yeah.
So he's almost
Well, and
like
like,
the safe, like he's
yeah,
almost like
no,
safe.
well, and with like, I agree on the cocky side, but technically, you have Tony with Pepper, you have Steve with Peggy, not really, but you know what I mean. Like, still, his
Yes.
heart belongs to her. And on top of that, and Hawkeye is obviously like just a brother, best friend to her, so it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be a relationship. Um, I think that again, I wish that there was more of this sort of unpacking in the film itself, but you can kind of get the idea that from what is unsaid in that scene from Black Widow, she longs to go back to a time before she was sterilized and trained and stuff where she could have had a more normal life. And Bruce, like you say, is like the most normal of the guys, like, because devoid of the Hulk side of him, he is just like a nerdy
He's just a nice
scientist
dude.
who's really like
Yeah.
quaint and chill and, you know, vibey. So I like it, but it's just I there's too many holes that you can pick in it in this film for it to feel really satisfying in any
Yeah.
real way.
I do want to be fair. I think even if everybody was single, I still think this is the right answer for her.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm with
So,
you there. Yeah.
okay, cool. Anything else we want to say about Black Widow?
For the time being, no.
No? Okay. Anything we want to say about Hulk? I don't really have too much to say besides like I'm kind of annoyed at this like back and forth thing where he's like, I'll help you, I won't help you. I'm so evil. Like, I don't know. Like I understand why he's doing it, but I'm also kind of sick of it. So I don't know.
I think, yeah, but then I think that that is sort of doubled up with the idea that Bruce is kind of sick of it because
Yeah.
he just doesn't feel valuable to the team unless he's this monster. Like, what, again, talking about like what place does Hawkeye have on this team? It's like simultaneously Bruce feels like he has to be there because he is the ace in the hole, but he also can't be there with everyone because when he is there, he isn't him; he's the Hulk.
Mhm.
Um, so I think there's that dichotomy and that sort of split in his psyche that he is in that turmoil. But it has to be handled deftly enough that it doesn't also become frustrating for the audience. And again, I don't think, as you say, they strike the right balance here.
Yeah. I think I was trying to like I think the only answer for him is to I think the only answer is he's either done, like he either can't be a hero anymore, or like he has to figure out how to control it. And I don't even know if that's like a possible answer since I don't really know like Hulk's story.
Yeah.
But like I think those are the only two options for him. And I suspect that they'll go with a third option that's like he's just gonna keep showing up and like emotionally scarring himself. So
Poor Bruce.
yeah. Who else we got? Thor, not in the movie much. Has
No.
some interesting stuff, but he's more I have a feeling he'll be seen more later. Because he's the one that seems to be pulling the through line for the next pieces. So that's my suspicion. So I don't really have much to say about him. What about you?
Yeah, like I think that is it. That is the point to focus on for him in this film. That he, whilst everybody else is evidently concerned with Ultron as like the most prominent threat, he acknowledges something, you know, particularly with Vision's birth, that there is likely something else on the horizon, but we can discern what that is. But he is the first one to really begin putting the pieces together. We don't really see that again in this film, which is another gripe you could potentially have with it. But yeah,
I
I
think
think
if they had paired this movie with something else of like showing the reflection of what he does, I think that that would have been really cool. Like it didn't
yeah,
all need to be in this film,
yeah.
but I think it's stuff that needed to be shown.
Mm-hmm. And this film in particular is sort of infamous in terms of in the editing process cutting out tons of scenes that in reality would have shed a lot of light on the stuff that we've talked about, whether it is fleshing out the Natasha Bruce relationship, whether it is Thor going off to get mystical answers to questions that he needed, and stuff like that. So that footage does exist somewhere, but it's unfortunate that they couldn't quite fit what we now think of as the more important stuff into the film, and they just sort of, instead of laying the seedlings of stuff here, rather than giving us the real meat and potatoes, which is what we want.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't be a Marvel film, right?
Nope, they got to string us along to the next one.
I love it. Okay. Next we have Iron Man and Captain America.
Yeah,
I feel like Captain America didn't do much in this film. Like he
not really.
was there, he existed, but he was just like telling people what to do and didn't really have anything for himself. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah.
Like he was just there as like a vessel almost of like guiding the audience of what was going on.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like, again, this is I will stand by my statement that I like this film more than the first Avengers, but it's going to sound like we're just being negative when we talk about these things. The justification that I always have to raise myself in my head is that this film is following Winter Soldier. So, like, in my head canon, Steve is like still wrought in his mind about trying to find Bucky, figure out what's going on there.
The Kopi
So
and the
like he's
strong
almost
man.
absently minded here,
Yeah.
which explains why he isn't quite as in the forefront as you might expect him to be, compared to the first Avengers, definitely.
Yeah.
But again, is that said or stated in the film? No.
No.
You just kind of have to extrapolate those
I
things,
mean, they
which
do have one line of like,
they
"Oh,
do.
I'm
They do.
I'm I'm searching for a missing person," and that's about it.
Yeah.
But
Which is like,
yeah.
again, for people that watch all of these things and stay invested and are sort of on the ball, you're like, oh yeah, that does make sense. And then you can extrapolate. But for actual clarity as to why certain characters are in prominence in one thing and then not the next, with no narrative justification, seemingly, that
I mean,
is
I don't
clear.
think that Captain America has to be at the forefront at all times. But I do think he also didn't really have any character beats at all. Besides,
Yeah,
like, I think you shouldn't do that. No.
yeah. I mean, like, I guess my point is that like he is technically like the de facto leader of the Avengers.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
you kind of have the perception that the leader is meant to be quite prominent, and he doesn't necessarily take specifically a back seat here, but he, like we say, he's just not as, you know,
Yeah.
that was a great example for audio listeners, but I think they catch my drift regardless. Yeah, like I think he's fine here. He's Captain America-ing. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much stuff. There's rife potential inherent with his
Mm-hmm.
character
Yeah.
being the man out of time and stuff. Like it's weird to me that in this film that is so skewed around technology and AI and robots and stuff, that there isn't more of an emphasis put on him being like, I have no idea what's going on, because I don't know what AI is. I don't really know what the internet is, you know, because they
Yeah, but
made
he's
jokes
kind of
about
had
that in
some
the first
time to
Avengers.
adjust, right?
I know, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
just something about him still being out of his depth. Like, I thought I knew everything. I thought I was up to speed, but apparently not.
I mean,
That would be
I
a funny
think
quippy line.
I think it would be so funny if they had kept that going from the beginning, right? Like
Mm.
just make him like an absolute like grandpa with like
Blissfully
technology,
unaware. Yeah,
hey, it says I'm not connected to the internet. Why is this not working? Like that kind of thing. Like just making like a bunch of dumb jokes like that. Like if they had kept doing that throughout the films, like I think that would have been really funny, but
yeah.
too late now.
Too late
Um
now.
okay, Iron Man.
Yeah.
We already talked about him a little bit. I don't think I have much more to say about him. I do think that he is having some interesting moments here and like trying to not mentally fall apart, but also slightly mentally falling apart, which as somebody with anxiety, I kind of get.
Yeah.
So,
He's trying to hold things together, and
mhm,
protect the people that he cares about, and he can't do that effectively. So he seems aloof and cold, or nonchalant to everybody, and that's how he's presenting. But we know as the audience that isn't the reasons that he's doing this. So I think out of all the characters in this film, I think he has the most interesting arc. Not that it's a fully complete one,
no,
but I
yeah.
think that a continuation, as I say, like we're not necessarily taking massive steps forward in any direction, but as a continuation, following on from his PTSD, Iron Man 3, his experiences in the first
Hmm.
Avengers, I like that they do, as opposed to other through lines that we've just said about not necessarily fully being dropped, but mostly. I like that this one is still quite prominent in his character.
Yeah.
Mm,
I like it as well.
yeah.
Okay. Shout out to the characters that weren't there, which confused the hell out of me. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Them not being there really confused me. I was like, they were just introduced. Why are they not here?
Well, they're off in space. They aren't on Earth.
So is Thor.
Yeah, but Thor's like basically based on Earth now, you know,
Mm,
and like he's always got his eye on it. Whereas
I get
Peter,
it.
he ran away from home with the Guardians. He's got a galaxy to save.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. And it may have been silly, but I was just like, oh, they were just introduced. I'll probably see them again.
They're all going
But
to
I
show up in
didn't.
Ant-Man, so don't worry. All of them, every single
All of
character we've
them?
had, all of them, every character we've had thus far in
I can't
Ant-Man.
tell if you're being sarcastic or not.
You'll find out soon enough, won't you?
Probably not that soon.
Oh,
Don't
well,
get my hopes up.
it's all relative. You never know.
Okay. Okay. Is there any other characters that you wanted to touch on? I think we were pretty thorough.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think so, because it's
Okay.
unfortunate that again, like we've said in previous episodes, some of the potentially more interesting characters are basically gone from this film. And I don't mean like Guardians. I mean, where's Falcon? Where's Sam?
I mean, he was there,
but he also wasn't
but not
there.
there. Yeah, War Machine was also there, but not there.
Yeah, like why? Why
They're
is
not the
he
main
not there?
heroes.
But neither is Hawkeye. But Hawkeye's there. Do you know? Like,
Yeah,
I
but
mean, I know
Hawkeye was
technically,
in the
yes,
first. Yeah.
he's in the first 6.
So you know
Avengers,
the answer without anybody saying anything.
but
I get your question though.
I don't know why. You know, because if it was set up in Winter Soldier, for example, that Sam and Steve were going to work super tight together, they were great friends. So why, even though they technically say that Sam was still on the trail of Bucky, you would think that as a literal city begins flying up into the sky,
They'd be like, "Hey, I think this might be more important."
maybe just for 5 minutes,
reallocate some
I'll
energy
focus
for
on that for a
second.
Bucky can't run that
Yeah.
far, I don't think.
Yeah.
But hey ho, what can you do?
Yeah. True story. Okay. So I think we also covered a lot of like the themes as well in this film. But I did want to is there any other themes that you wanted to bring up that you feel like we didn't touch on? I feel like there's a lot of good interweaving themes in this movie. But mostly I think it's like bringing up the question of like what are heroes and like who deserves to be heroes and like what makes you a hero, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And like you could say it superficially touches on like questions of AI and the dangers of that stuff, but it doesn't really dip its toe into that. If you were to argue that, it would be that it is purely on a surface level thing because those elements are in the film. That there is an AI villain in the film that is capable of doing X, Y, and Z, nuclear codes, yada yada yada. But they don't really do anything with that, so I don't think that that's necessarily worthy of note.
I think they would have done a lot more with it if that movie was made like this year.
Oh yeah, 1000%.
Which is weird.
And you could hold out hope, and this isn't, I swear to God, this is not alluding to anything in the future. Just by the nature of what Ultron was and like how he was able to upload himself into the internet, technically, and I do hope that at some point they do retroactively make it so that in some corner of like the dark web or something, Ultron hid himself and has just been like lingering,
It's possible, but
possible. I doubt it.
I just don't think that they'd want to open up Vision to like a flaw like that because there's no reason why Vision wouldn't have been able to chase him out completely. So
that is true.
So just I understand why you'd want him back, but them back.
It's kind of like evergreen villain, really. You can kill him, but what does killing an AI mean? Like, it's even possible to eradicate that? Again, those are interesting questions that could be asked in a different version of this film, but alas.
Okay. Any other themes, story, through line discussions that you wanted to touch on?
I don't think so. The only thing that I would mention, and it's not necessarily specifically related to anything that you just said there, any of those points you said, a part of this film, a particular line towards the end, which is technically like thematically worthwhile, but nobody ever brings it up, and it's one of my favorites in the entire MCU thus far, even up to present day. When Vision is having that discussion with the last Ultron robot, and he says the whole "I was only born yesterday" thing. The Ultron, I guess, because that's the only one left. Ultron said, I'm paraphrasing, but like along the lines of, you do realize that the humans are doomed. And I think like one of the most telling character moments of anything ever in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that without any hesitation, Vision agrees. He says yes. So it's like, again, I think that's why I like Vision so much, is because Ultron's like, well, everybody here on this planet is doomed regardless. Like, you haven't technically stopped anything. And Vision is just like, yep, you're right. I agree with you. But then he goes on to say, like, a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts, which is not a quote necessarily unique to him. I've heard that sentiment in various forms over various bits of media. But I think that idea that Vision is a very complex, torn character just in general by the nature of his creation, but that he's still worthy of Thor's hammer and stuff, so he's pure of intent and good of heart, not that he has a heart, but that he knows he's fighting for the losing side.
Yeah.
But he does it anyway, which isn't exclusive to him, because I know that everybody else would fight for that anyway.
But everybody else, I think, has like more, they're able to kind of like lean more into like the hope of like, well, maybe it'll be okay kind of thing.
Yeah, they are
knows,
ignorant.
right?
They're ignorant to it. They are blissfully unaware of what
Mhm.
really lies ahead of them, which is why Tony is so terrified and does everything he can to prevent bad things from happening and inadvertently causes them. But yeah, like Vision knows. He knows for a certainty. And I think that that's a lesson that a lot of people could probably learn from, in real life.
Probably.
Everybody's going to die one day. The world is an awful, horrible place, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't strive to be good and kind and help people.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that we want to touch on?
They technically set up a new Avengers team at the end of the film.
Do they?
Kind of. Because, like,
I mean, I saw the Avengers like facility, but
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, they've got a new base. But like Thor buggers off because he's like, I have to find the answers to the questions. It's like, what questions? He says, so we'll find out next time.
I mean, you kind of know what he's looking for, right?
Yeah,
he says he's like, yo, it's real sus that these Infinity Stones are
showing
just
up out of nowhere super quickly.
I would also be sus. I was like,
forever, and they've practically all shown up in the past 3 years. But yeah, like Steve and Natasha, they go in and they're like, who's ready, people? And it's this War Machine, Sam, Falcon, Vision, and Wanda. Yeah, like he's setting up a new team, but do we really think that Thor and Iron Man and Hulk, they're all done? Where did Hulk go? He just buggered off in a plane.
Yeah, and we don't have another Hulk movie either, so
no. That's actually the last time you ever see the Hulk. True story.
I don't believe that even, kind of.
Setting yourself up for disappointment, I'm afraid.
Okay, rankings. Where do you think this ranks on my list?
I'm so bad, I keep forgetting.
Okay, so Guardians,
yep.
Captain America, Winter Soldier, Iron Man 3, and The Avengers is the top 4. And I already said that I like it more than The Avengers, so you just have to decide where it falls above.
So it's not going to be above Guardians for you.
Okay.
Is it above Winter Soldier?
That's the question, isn't it?
I'm going to say yes.
You are correct. It is number 2 right
Ah,
now.
okay.
Where would you put it on your list?
I don't know my list.
Your list right now is Captain America, Winter Soldier, and then the Avengers, and then Guardians of the Galaxy. Again, I'm assuming since you said you like it better than the Avengers, it'll be either 1 or 2. My guess is 1, but if you want to put it 2, then
I'm going to put it at 2.
okay. Avengers Age of Ultron. We did it.
I just love me some Bucky and eyeshadow, you know. I don't think
Mhm.
at the minute I don't think that can be beaten.
Okay, fair enough. Alrighty. Well, I think that's everything. Thank you guys so much for listening and hanging out. We will see you next time with Ant-Man? Question mark.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay, Ant-Man. We'll see you next with Ant-Man in 2 weeks for you guys. Who knows how long for me?
Time is a flat circle.
No. So, thank you guys for hanging out. And I do want to give a shout out to our patrons. Bucky Blue, Amon, Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Brianna's wife, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, The Snack Network, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, and Alpaca Tom. Thank you guys so much for the support. I appreciate you. Again, you can support us from just $1, and I won't get into the spiel because Sam gets scared every time. But just $1 will be so lovely. I'd appreciate it. Where can people find you?
I still don't know what to say to this question now.
Yeah.
I'll just say you
Just
can
give your
find me.
address.
Okay, it is. I'll just say people can find me basically anywhere. If you try to find me, you probably will.
Except for TikTok.
Yes, not that. I'm not on TikTok.
And probably not MySpace.
No, I am on LinkedIn.
And also not and then also are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Also on Threads. Can't find you there.
Not on that yet. But again, that's because I don't want to have to if that goes sideways, I don't want to have to delete my Instagram account.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
Not that I care that much about my Instagram.
You post a lot on your Instagram.
Yeah, I do like 1 every year. It's great.
I think you post like twice a year. You'll have one random reason to post, and then your birthday.
If people are
post,
lucky, yeah, maybe twice a year.
If people are lucky, oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, well you can find me at Fabulous Brianna, FabulistBreanna, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks when we watch Ant-Man. Bye.
Bye.